Hello, hello. Welcome to For Book's Sake with Heather Roberts.
And Veronica Adams. We are 1852 Media.
Yes. And today we are going to talk about scammers, bad actors, and beyond in the publishing industry. Red flags, all sorts of red flags. And if you've been in this industry for more than a minute, you have seen some of these scammers pop up. You know, romance industry especially is $1 billion industry. It's a several $1 billion a year industry. And there's always somebody trying to take your hard-earned money and not give you the services or product that, you think you're getting. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks of how to avoid these types of folks and actually make sure that you're working with some reputable people in the industry, because there are great people in the industry, right? There are,
Yes.
ourselves included.
But also, oh my gosh, the things we have seen.
Yes.
And for indies in particular, or authors who are hybrid and have indie offerings in addition to their traditional books, the number of people out there who could potentially prey on you, trying to help you with the various pieces of getting an indie book from concept to market,
Yes.
it's just, there are just so many places along the way where
Ginormous.
you can fall into traps. And this is an unregulated situation. Like, very few things to protect you aside from whatever your agreement is with the service provider themselves.
I think that that's a big part. So, let's talk about that first. So, when somebody or when you approach somebody or somebody approaches you and you're going to enter into an agreement for services, whatever they may
Right.
be,
Right.
you should have some type of an agreement. There
Absolutely.
needs to be some type of an agreement. So,
If nothing else, policies and procedures posted on the website of the
yes.
person or the company that you're attempting to negotiate work with.
It depends on the situation and the type of service for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scrolling on a website for pre-made covers, for example,
Yeah.
You can purchase a pre-made cover off their website. There should be, terms on their website that list returns or what are the next steps, what exclusivity, licensing, that sort of thing. You should be able to determine all of that before you even make the purchase.
Right.
So that's something to, look out for. One thing, so I'll give my red flags. If there are no recommendations or referrals and the service provider is not willing to provide you with any recommendations or referrals, that is a huge red flag. Because I always joke that we're the Progressive of promotional and marketing firms, because I'm like, go out and talk to other people, talk to our clients, please. Because frankly,
go compare us to
yes.
other companies who do what we do. Go talk to this list of people who have worked with us for in some cases, literally years.
Yeah.
I would love for you to do that.
I frankly
prefer the people who
they
don't
do
work
it
with us anymore,
Yeah.
too. I'll give you those people's names as well. I want you to feel comfortable about our arrangement.
Exactly. And exactly. Because frankly, I prefer that you go out and talk to people who've had experiences with us. That way, from an author perspective, exactly what the situation is. Because I can tell you all day long, what services we're going to provide and how this or that is going to work. But without you actually talking to somebody in your shoes, sometimes, there can be a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. But oftentimes that clears it up and it's great. And I'd rather you talk to somebody who's been a client of mine for 7 years or even 6 months. But, obviously the longer term clients have more experience with us.
Sure.
So, yeah, if you're not getting any recommendations or referrals, or if the person is brand new, right? Brand new, then you're
taking a chance on somebody who's just hung their shingle to do something.
Yes, but you should know that. And the price should be relative to the experience.
Yes. Everyone deserves to get paid the value of their work, but also someone who's just cutting their teeth should not be charging you the same amount of money that someone who has a significant amount of experience
Correct.
should be charging you.
I mean, our rates when we were first starting in 2016
Hmm.
are very different than our rates in 2023.
Sure,
And
sure.
why?
Our
Because,
services and offerings have changed over the
yeah,
years too,
absolutely.
as we have grown and developed as a company.
And as the market has shifted and changed.
Exactly. As authors' needs have changed and we've had to
Yeah.
slide out of certain spaces and into others, absolutely.
And I feel like
But
that's also something you should look at. Are the
yeah,
offerings that are being provided by this service provider something you need in the current market? Is there some added
totally.
value to your brand, to your business for
Hmm.
the current market as it exists? Have they always offered these services? Maybe they have been in business a long time, but these things that this is just something they've always offered, but the market doesn't really
Right,
need it anymore. That's something to think
right.
about too. So, these are be critical thinkers. Don't just listen to somebody that says, "Oh, you need this," and immediately go out and have to buy
Mhm.
it.
Are they charging you for things that you can do for yourself?
That's
And
true.
I don't, okay, there is value in freeing up your time by
Yes.
delegating to somebody else. And a large part of our business is literally that exact
Yes.
thing.
Exchanging time for
Freeing up
money.
time.
Yes.
Exactly. But also, you have to understand perhaps there are programs, software, other things at play here that someone's overcharging you for access to.
Right.
I have seen that a lot
I've seen that a lot too.
using Publisher Rocket or Klytics or, things
Yeah.
like that, and then charging you a whole lot more money for them to run those reports for you than perhaps it would cost you to even buy access to Publisher Rocket or Klytics yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so think about that. Like, what are you actually getting
Hmm.
for the service that is being offered?
Right.
Because, yeah, I've seen some, just to give an example, and I won't use company names, but I've seen a company that offers like basically keyword recommendations,
Hmm.
a metadata recommendations, an analysis, comps essentially, for
Right.
like a package of like $400. When really that's just a run through like Publisher Rocket and
Pretty
Klytics,
much. Hmm.
which is pretty much what you're talking about. And so if you're just going to do a one time thing and you're never like you just want to know where you stand, then maybe that's worth it to you. But you can go out and purchase these licenses to this software, and if you're going to be wanting that type of thing over and over again, you can produce it yourself. Or you can hire a PA to produce it off of the software that you purchase. That would
Yes.
then be cheaper.
They could do it regularly for every
Yes.
launch. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think that is more to the point of the warning I was giving in this particular context, because I have no issue running Publisher Rocket reports for anything or using Klytics for a client, but I also want to give them more than what they're going to get just from using
sure.
those programs,
Right.
right? Like,
Our
add value.
analysis. Yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And someone's experience in doing those things is absolutely worth paying for.
Yeah.
But if you're just getting a print off, with
Yeah.
no additional tips or, an in-depth analysis or a consultation about the data, I mean, there's really no added value there. And that's
Right.
that's a
Absolutely
red
a good
flag to
point.
me.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely
a
a good
red
point.
flag.
And yeah, so there's that. I would say also another red flag is anybody offering you immediate results or like a magic pill for publishing.
Guaranteeing you dollars or
Yes.
or say or units sold. Yes.
Yes, guaranteeing you
Yes.
that. It's just not realistic in this market. I have seen people put lots of money, lots of time, lots of effort into books and not selling anywhere near what our prediction was for,
Right.
our estimation, for what we thought we were going to sell. And then similarly, you put the same amount into another book and it blows us all out of the water. Because the
Right.
thing is, with publishing, it's not just the money and time that you're putting into it, there's also luck and timing. And you cannot ever predict
Mhm.
luck and timing.
Yeah. Anyone who says they have a magic bullet for either or both of those things is absolutely selling you snake oil.
And, there are two ways, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. There are two ways to really, make a career in publishing. One is time, and the other is money.
Mhm.
So if you have a shit ton of capital to work with, just like with any business, right? This is not exclusive to publishing. If you
Right.
have a shit ton of capital to work with and you can pump a whole lot of money into ads right up front, you can pump a whole lot of money into, different marketing strategies,
Mhm.
mostly advertising for
Mhm.
your books, high looking, high level covers. You're,
Yeah.
paying for the look of it all. Everything looks super streamlined, professional. You're paying for the high level everything. And you're running shit tons of ads. Are your books more likely to get higher traction and sales right out of the gate?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Will you still be in the red if you only have one or two books out? Probably.
That depends.
It depends though.
I was just thinking of a brand in particular, and I won't name names, but a brand where the author publishes maybe 2 or 3 times a year at most.
Mhm.
Okay. And when I did some work for that brand, very profitable on that schedule, doing all of the things you just said.
Yeah,
Very profitable.
it can
Three
be.
books a
It
year
absolutely.
and just running lots of pay-per-click ads, buttoning up the visuals for the brand, the cover, the promotional graphics, all of those things. Really tight, high quality stuff.
Yeah.
Custom cover photos and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Commissioned covers rather than pre-mades. Not that there's anything wrong with pre-mades, but also when you go out of your way to pay extra for a design that is unique to your brand, you stand out.
You do. You stand out in the crowd.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that absolutely can be
It is
lucrative. It is
possible to
way
be
more it
successful
is
that
way
way.
more
Mhm.
possible. I put it way more likely.
Right.
The other one is time. If you
Yes.
just spend your time writing books, doing the marketing that you can afford,
Mhm.
pumping it out over and over and over again,
Right.
continually doing the hard work,
Grinding.
grinding,
Mhm.
hustling, then yes, you also can, be successful. It's the law of
Sure.
big numbers, right? Like
Mhm.
eventually something is going to break. Now, I don't know
Certain
when.
number of books to a certain number of dollars exists for a reason.
Yes, that does exist for a reason. And yeah, so you can absolutely do it that way too. Now, lots of people do a combination, right? A combination of those things, because they don't have the huge capital numbers to begin with. And what do I mean when I say huge capital numbers? I mean, I have known authors to spend 20, 30, $50,000 on a release,
Yes.
on a
Absolutely.
single release.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when I'm talking about big capital numbers, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I mean, I know a story. There is so much stuff that has happened in this industry. And again, I'm not going to name names. This is an old story too, so I don't think it'll be identifiable. But there is an author who put $1 million into the marketing of a series that this author had and was releasing. The series became popular because, shockingly, she put $1 million into it. This is also when Facebook ads were becoming more popular. And that particular author figured them out and was obviously gaining traction off of them. This author then ended up selling the rights to that series to a publisher. And the publisher, unfortunately, did not ask to see the advertising dollars spent in
That's a big
advertising
fumble.
the book. Yes, massive
Oh my
fumble,
god.
massive fumble. So here the publisher thinks that these books are just,
Organically
organically
in high
popular.
demand.
And so the publisher purchases them. This author gets a 7-figure deal for the purchase of these titles.
On top of all the money already made from the original $1 million marketing investment.
Yes. And then the publisher goes and republishes these titles and there was another book coming out in the series.
Mhm.
Well, the publisher did not put $1 million or even, a quarter of that. They didn't put in their
That would be
advertising budget. They did
that would be atypical,
right.
yeah, for them to make an investment like that, any of them.
The publisher did not put a massive advertising investment to that level into the most recent release
Right.
of that series. And so, wouldn't you know it, that book did not sell like the others. And it was a massive, when all of us looking from the outside was like, oh my God, that book just didn't sell like well at all. And why? Because they weren't advertising it. And why would the author advertise it anymore? They have their figure deal.
Well,
They
yeah, I'm not gonna invest my advance or my royalties from selling
yeah.
my rights to you back into advertising so you can make more money too. No, no. It's now your responsibility to market this book. You own the rights to it.
Yeah. And was that a bad actor play? No. It was just the
Mm,
publisher didn't do their due diligence. I mean, that's what that situation is. So there's situations where I'm not saying that author is a bad actor. I'm just saying this is what happened. And I guess my biggest takeaway from that is you can't always believe what you see.
yeah.
Just
Right.
because you see that this book is popular doesn't mean that there's not something behind that that's
You've
making it
no idea
so.
what the mechanism behind the closed doors is to have that level of popularity. And
Correct.
in today's market, there are so many different things that could be at play. This sounds to me like a story from back in the day when really it was just Facebook ads,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you've got Facebook ads, but also Amazon ads and viral
Yeah.
TikToks, all sorts of third party newsletter marketing options.
Tons of marketing options now.
Just cross promotion with similar authors
Mhm.
or authors who carry larger audience weight than you do as a brand. Just so many things that could be going on,
Yeah.
leading to a book being as successful as the original volumes in that series were.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many authors that are successful now because they got a helping hand from a very established author by,
Absolutely. Hmm.
that established author with a huge following,
Yeah.
supporting them and promoting their books in
Hmm.
their newsletter, in their groups, etc., because they're
Yep.
friends, what have you.
One of the most wonderful things about, in particular, the romance
Yeah.
community is it can be a little bit cliquey, like high school
Yeah,
was,
can be.
but also there's a lot of authors helping authors in
Can be
this
very
particular way,
supportive.
which
Yeah.
I love. I
Oh,
love
yeah, I'm
that.
not saying that's a bad thing at all. I'm just,
Right.
it's just you can't say you don't know how that
You
person
can't
got
point to
their
one
start.
definitive
Yeah,
service or something and go, this is the thing that made that author a
correct.
household name and super wealthy. And so now, you're going to dump a whole bunch of time and money into pursuing that too. And maybe there were other things at play that you weren't aware of.
Which is
So,
why oftentimes you hear advice on the internet. And here we are giving advice on the internet. But specifically, if somebody's like, well, I did this, so you could too. No, not
uh-huh.
necessarily. There are so
Right.
many variables at play here. So just because somebody was able to do that doesn't mean that you also can do that. It's sort of, to me, it's sort of like losing weight when people are like, oh, well, I lost the weight, so you can too. Not everybody's body chemistry is different. You know what I mean? Like
True.
genetics are
True.
different. People have different health things that are different. So no,
Right.
just because you lost the weight doesn't mean I can too in that same way, in the same way that you did
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Maybe something else would work for me better.
So beware the service provider selling you diet pills.
Correct. Correct. Let's see. What else? Oh, the next up on my list is paying to publish your book.
Oh.
Yes. Let's talk about the vanity press.
Yes.
That is what they're
Love.
called. If you Google vanity press and ask for a definition, it is a publisher that requires that you pay them to publish your book. So that's why it's called a vanity press, because essentially you're publishing for vanity. So there's people that call themselves hybrid publishers that are, in my mind, still vanity presses, because you still have to pay them to publish the book. The only difference is they do actually occasionally provide you with services as well. So you get something for publishing the book,
Aside from the ability to say that you
or a published
had a book
author.
published by
Yes.
a company rather than by yourself,
Right.
which
I mean, listen, there's a market for everything. Are they doing
different things are important to different people. I
is
would rather make money
yeah,
than have some sort of appearance of legitimacy, but I understand why having a publishing contract and an actual publisher gives you, you know,
something.
that sense of legitimacy.
And that's why they exist. I mean, are they
Mhm.
illegal? No. I'm not saying this is not an illegal type situation.
Right.
But this is a situation of you don't have to do that. you can you can do all this stuff on your own, or you can hire out those pieces for way less than what you would be paying this publisher to publish your book for you. So think about that. I mean, if you just want to throw some money at the problem and walk away, for some of the prices that these places charge, I'd rather you take 3/4 of that and put it into advertising,
For sure.
and we can do the rest of it on the other budget. I mean, good heavens. So, yeah. Let's see. My next one is a DM cold solicitation.
Nothing I hate more.
I hate it when people slide into the DMs.
Nothing I hate more.
Like, there's there's the occasional maybe it's possible company that could slide into your DMs to try to solicit to you for business, and it's legitimate and not a scam. I mean, they might actually provide a service. I don't know. I haven't really seen it. But usually they're going to charge you way more than what you're going to get
For
for
sure.
it.
And that's if they're even a legitimate company,
Correct.
because I have in all of the years that we've been doing this, I have probably pursued correspondence with the direct message instigators. If I've done it once, I've done it 50 times for various clients over the years.
Yeah.
Someone's curious, right?
Yeah.
A service provider slides into their DMs and is like, "Hey, we do this, would love to collaborate, or we offer this, check us out." And they pass it on to me for verification, right? Like, "Hey, Veronica, what do you think of this?
Oh
Does this
yeah.
look legit? I'm a little concerned."
Mhm.
Like, handle those kinds of inquiries regularly for clients.
Same.
I do a quick analysis based on, the internet presence, and then I volunteer to go ahead and correspond with the direct messenger just to see where it goes and to get more information.
Yeah.
So the client doesn't have to worry about it. And if it's legit and I think it might be legit, then the client and I can discuss whether or not we pursue a collab. I bet 80% of the time I get no response whatsoever.
Right. Once they know that there's somebody else working for them that's trying to vet the
Right.
situation,
Right.
crickets.
Exactly. They're literally just there to find some way to scam you out of money. Get a credit card number, a PayPal
Yeah.
account, an email address, anything they can do to take some money from you and run.
Right.
Mhm.
I deal with this. So we also represent some influencers, like TikTok
Yeah.
influencers, things like
Content
that.
creators. Yeah.
Content
Mhm.
creators for management, doing, brand deals, things like that.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
this is the main thing that we do for them. So in that situation, when you're not talking about an author situation, when you're talking about an influencer situation, they live off of the sliding into the DMs, right?
Sure. Sure.
And so oftentimes it can be a legitimate scenario, but weeding through that mess is something else. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I send back an email or message saying, great, thank you so much. Like, here's the information about this person, blah, 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 blah. Here are the prices, etc. And then suddenly it's crickets because it's, they're represented by somebody who's not going to let me get one over on them.
Or this is going to cost me more than I thought it
Yes,
was.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's why we exist because we will do the vetting for you
right.
so that you don't get, put yourself in a situation that is going to be a nightmare or just a waste of time, a massive waste of time. That's the biggest thing. So yeah, just be very wary. So when we do go and vet companies, I mean, I will look to see how long have they been in business. And like we were saying before, like
Or
it's
do they even have a web presence
yeah,
in general? Or is this just an individual sending you an email or a direct message soliciting your business?
right. And if it is, then you need to start asking some questions. Who do you represent? Like, who have you worked with before?
Right.
How long have you been in business? Like, what types of services do you provide? Like, all of these questions. How do you
What's the
accept?
average investment that your clients
Yeah.
make into your services?
How do you accept payment?
Hmm.
If they're asking you to Venmo them,
Hmm.
do not do that. I
What are your terms and conditions? Can I get a refund? What am I obligated to engage your services for other things? Like,
Unless you truly trust the person, I would not use Venmo. And the answer, okay, so I will give my answer as to why Venmo is not a legitimate business app because it's not a legitimate business app. Venmo is meant,
my opinion is simply just this fact, you all.
yes. Venmo is an offshoot of PayPal, my friends. Okay, let's
Right.
go with this.
Right.
PayPal is meant for business use. You can send invoices, etc. PayPal has insane fees for use of their invoices and their terms of service. Just so everyone knows, PayPal's terms of service do not allow you to put that PayPal fee onto the consumer. So you cannot charge them the PayPal fee for a service that you're
Right.
providing. You cannot pass that along. Whereas in like other business practices, you can pass on a credit card fee or something of the like if you're using a different
Okay.
service, financial transaction platform. So with PayPal, the service provider is having to eat like 4% of whatever that amount is, which adds up because we used to use PayPal.
There are plenty out there who are just
And
adding 4% to the total and not telling you that, but yes.
correct. But if you specifically add it in there, you can't do that. And so that's fine. But like my point being is the person, the service provider, they are, having to eat those fees. So what some people have done is they're like, oh, well, just Venmo me because you used to be able to do friends and family on
Right.
PayPal. And then PayPal locked that down. If you have a business account, you no longer can send payments, through friends and family so
Right.
that you can't avoid the fee. And they also came out with Venmo. So Venmo is essentially for use for friends and family. That is what it's for. Venmo is supposed to be the friends and family option when you're just trying to reimburse somebody for dinner or, pay for, something, odd jobs around the house, what have
Right.
you. It's not meant to be a business app. It is not meant for like running a massive business off of,
Right.
the occasional thing. Like my son occasionally gets tutoring sessions for SAT from, a kid. Uh, I'll Venmo him some, a couple dollars for what he provides. He's not
I
running.
Venmo your kid for his birthday.
Yes, like he's not running this. What I'm saying, this kid's not running some
Right.
huge business. He's occasionally
Right.
doing some tutoring as a hobby.
Right.
Like yeah, it is not meant for business platforms. So
Right.
if they're asking for Venmo, be wary because also the reason that you should be wary is you can't get refunded on
Yes.
Venmo.
Your protections for fraud and or for an incomplete transaction are so restricted on Venmo.
Yeah.
Like your recourse if you don't get what you paid for,
You're out of that money. I mean,
probably
you're,
like in its entirety.
yeah. At least with PayPal, you can open up a dispute.
Hmm.
If, you're paying through a different transaction, like we use QuickBooks now, QuickBooks
Yeah.
invoicing, then you're dealing with, normal business transactions like your bank. You can file a dispute with your bank. We can have a whole
Hmm.
thing. Like that's a normal business situation,
Right.
as opposed to, you're never going to see that. If they disappear, you're never
Right.
seeing that money again.
Right. Same goes for cash transaction apps.
Yes.
Zelle, what's the other one?
Zelle, what's there's another one that starts with a Z.
I think so.
I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
But yeah, anyone who's not using a professional payment system, red flag.
Ask yourself
Not
why.
necessarily someone I don't want to do business with, but also like I need to understand why they just want me to like transfer money to them with, you know, basically no protections after that.
Correct.
Which, can be circumvented by a contract for services, of course. Like if you
Exactly.
have something in writing about what you're getting from this person or this company, that protects you a little bit.
Yeah.
Certainly gives you something that you can take to like small claims court or, your local civil branch of
Right.
government and ask a judge or a magistrate to force them to pay up. But that's a time consuming and expensive process most of the time.
Yep. And
If
so,
somebody just wants you to transfer them money without giving you anything like that to protect you,
eh,
I'm probably not doing business
I'm
with them
not doing
myself.
business with them either.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you got to think about that,
Hmm.
and think about, how long have they been in whatever industry? Have you looked at these recommendations? Have you talked to other people
Right.
who have used them? Have they gotten the services that they contracted for? Is there a
Hmm.
contract? I mean, it really depends. What are you paying for, right?
Right.
Like, for example, we have contracts. We have contract based
Yes.
clients, then we have a la carte clients, people that do individual services. It's listed on the website what you get
Right. The
for your
terms of that
service.
service are right there on the website. So when you hit the payment button, you know exactly what we owe you.
Yes. And there's no dispute. It is what it is. And
Hmm.
sometimes you'll get people that want a refund for whatever. And as a business owner, you should provide that refund if they're not
Yeah.
getting the service that
Listen,
they
I'm happy to
contracted
do that.
for.
If it's not what you thought you wanted, or it turns out it's, whatever. Like
Yeah,
let's make it right and both move forward. There's
exactly.
no sense in getting caught up in any sort of unnecessary disputes about stuff like that.
Exactly. So you want a real business. That's what you want. You want to
Yeah.
work with real businesses.
Yeah.
So that's why payment method really does come into play here,
Hmm.
because it also shows how that person is thinking of the services that they're providing. Are they
Right.
treating it as a real business? Or
Hmm.
is this just a side hobby that they just decided to start doing last week?
Right.
What are the credentials of the person that is providing the services for you? Are they trained in any way? Do they have any sort of professional background? And listen, you can gain knowledge off of experience. I did not go to marketing school,
Absolutely.
right? I went to
Absolutely.
law school. Do I
Hmm.
think, and you did too, do I
Right.
think that a lot of what we learned in law school is transferable to this industry? Shockingly,
110%.
yes. Shocking,
110%.
shockingly, yes.
Yeah.
But if you are hiring someone to, do some sort of cover design and they don't have you
Did they just buy a license to Photoshop
right
yesterday, or have they been making graphics and covers
a
for
decade or
6
whatever.
months
Yeah.
or 10 years? Yeah, whatever your criteria is. Right.
Yeah. Or do you maybe they have only been doing it for, several, like a month,
But you
but
love
you
their
love their
style and their
style.
prices are
Yeah.
competitive. Like, go for it.
It's right. So
Hmm.
just know what you're getting. Do a little due diligence here, just like that
Right.
publisher should have done for that particular book
The million
series.
dollar mistake.
Yes. And, perhaps they made it up on the back end. Who knows? But do your due diligence, my friends. Do your due diligence. And also don't just assume that because what you're seeing, we all know that social media is a curated experience. right?
Totally.
People are not putting out their worst selves usually. So keep that in mind. You don't know what's underneath. You don't know what's
Mhm.
happened. You don't know how they got there. So don't necessarily try to compare yourselves to them.
Right.
Comparison is the thief of joy. It truly is,
Amen.
especially in this industry. It really is.
Totally.
Let's see what other red flags are there. Can you think of any other ones?
Oh, my favorite is the group project box set anthology collection. The the bad acting organizer. Okay,
Yes. Oh, yes.
so especially for indies, but also for trads and hybrids, you're going to probably, if you haven't already, you're going to find yourself in the company of people who want to organize anthologies or
Yes.
group projects where everybody writes one book in a series and they're interconnected in some way. And the idea is cross promotion, or the idea is to hit a bestseller list, or the idea is to raise money for charity. I love those
Yeah.
projects as a marketer and a promoter and a publicist. I love them. They're so much fun to work on. But as authors, you have to be so careful about who you hitch your wagon to
Yep.
and how well organized the project is. Period. There have been tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of these projects over the years that I'm aware of
Oh, yeah.
that have resulted in no published anthology, or someone taking the money that's charged for you to buy into these projects, because oftentimes there's a fee for you to participate to cover the costs of publishing,
Mm-hmm.
advertising, and marketing in some cases.
Yep.
And someone will disappear with that money and you'll never see them again.
Yeah. It happens frequently.
Yes.
Frequently.
Yes. Too often. Far too often.
And listen, having a buy-in for an anthology is not on
Mhm.
its face a scammy tactic.
No, no,
I
that's
mean,
standard
that's
practice.
standard.
That
We
is standard
like
practice.
we are running for I'll do a quick promo right now. We're running an
Yes.
anthology right now. It's on pre-order on all platforms. It's called On the Line, a hockey anthology. All proceeds will be donated to After Action, which is a nonprofit that also, in full disclosure, is founded by my husband, Mikey Roberts, and I am the treasurer of, and Veronica is actually also on the board of
A
directors.
board member of,
Yes.
yes, yes, of After Action.
So, and it is to help trauma survivors have better economic outcomes after their trauma as they survive, as they continue on with their treatment. I could go into why all of the ins and outs of the nonprofit as it is building, but essentially, we are running a anthology to help raise money for this nonprofit. And when we created the anthology, we were just as upfront with all of the authors that we invited to this anthology, explained to them what After Action was,
Yes.
how we are connected with After Action. And
Right.
there was no buy in because we, 1852 Media, are donating the costs of everything of
Publishing and
publishing
marketing.
and
Right.
marketing. That is our contribution to this. And
The least we could
the
do
least
is
we can do.
people who are directly involved with the cause itself
Correct.
that we're supporting.
So that is why there is no fee in that regard for authors
Right.
to participate here. But if we were running something for someone else or what have you, like it would not be uncommon for us to charge a fee for the costs of promotion and marketing, especially if we
Yes.
are doing the cover, if we're running all of the advertising, if we're providing
Right.
access to all of our lists, if we are
I am currently in the process of doing the marketing for a charity anthology that releases in September. And that's exactly it. We charged a flat fee for me to do work over a certain period of time, specific promotional work related to social media marketing and
yes.
then also advertising once the anthology is live.
Right. So the actual money that an organizer will collect often goes to services like us, goes to
Right.
actual digital advertising, goes to cover
Right.
design, formatting,
Formatting.
yeah, all of that, which is completely legitimate to
Yep.
do. So don't be dissuaded if you see that up front. However, you should find out if that organizer has done this before,
Yes.
because let me tell you, organizing an anthology is not like talking about it. This one has been lovely. All of the
Yeah.
authors have been lovely to work with. Everybody has their stories in.
Hmm.
It's been great. I have been parts of anthologies that have been like this, where it's been lovely, and some that have been absolute fucking shit shows.
The shit shows make the best stories,
They
though, after they're
do.
all said and
Oh
done.
my God. But authors get in disagreements.
Hmm.
People can't agree on the biggest problem is when there's
Uh-huh.
nobody like really in charge and
Yeah.
nobody who's the final decision maker, and they put everything up for group discussion. You can't do that. That is you can't do that. No.
Someone has to be in charge.
Yeah. Someone has to be in charge. Someone has to be the final decision maker in these
Yes.
types of situations.
And that person should be trustworthy and have a track record of being communicative and honest.
Right. And you should, at the very least, get the occasional update as to what the pre order numbers are and
Yep.
what, then once the money
There should
does
be
come
some method
in,
for communication
right.
where, whether it's a Facebook group or a newsletter list, like you should be hearing from the organizer regularly.
Yes. You should know what's happening.
Hmm.
Or at least have, if you want to know what's happening and you reach out, you
Hmm.
should get a response as to what's happening. I think anthologies are going to be less, frequent than they
Yeah.
used to be because of the change in the USA Today rules.
100%.
Because
100%.
that
We
was,
had we
yeah.
had one last year that got burned that way, actually. We did some marketing for one, and initially the goal had been for them to try and hit the USA Today list with it, and then USA Today closed the list in the middle of the pre-order
Oh, I felt
period, and it
so
became
bad for those people.
it became impossible for them to make their goal. And a lot of the authors were rightfully very upset about that.
Yeah.
Super, super disappointing. But also not the organizer's fault, not our fault as the marketing company. I mean, it's just, it becomes impossible for you to achieve that goal. The next goal is, all right, let's make as much money as we can.
Yeah. That's why luck and timing come into play. You can't you
Literally, that's a
literally can't,
classic
yeah,
example.
you cannot predict this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't. So, yeah, very good example
Yeah.
of that situation happening.
Unless another list comes along or the criteria for one of the current lists changes, anthologies will probably become
Less
less
frequent.
frequent.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And mostly for charity, probably. I mean, some to make money too, I'm sure.
Sure. Sure.
But if that was the situation, I'd throw it into KU.
Well, and there are a couple of brands out there that have established anthologies. They do one seasonally or at
Yeah.
least annually, and readers expect them, and those will probably continue. But those are also, again, well established,
Hmm.
organized by someone who runs a small press or has a lot of personal experience publishing for themselves. I don't think those will
I
disappear
don't think so
necessarily.
either. But yeah, we won't see as many as we used to because of the
Right.
change with the USA Today rules, for sure.
Absolutely.
I will say, speaking of bad actor organizers, the same goes for signing event organizers.
Yes. Thanks for saying it.
Yes.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many horror stories I have heard of, organizers who
Hmm.
collected all of this money in table fees and ticket sales and et cetera, et cetera. And then to find out that there is no contract at the event venue.
Right.
And then
Right.
the person just absconds with the money.
After people make hotel
Yes.
reservations and reserve
Flights.
plane tickets,
Yes.
sometimes that are non-refundable, which I guess my best advice there is always make sure you buy refundable airline tickets for your business travel. But
True.
yeah,
I have seen it
yeah.
time and time and time
So many people
again.
hurt that way.
Time again. So if you're trying out to go to a new event, please look into the event organizer.
Mhm.
Please do. Ask questions.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with somebody trying to get into the industry to try to run an event, but are
Mhm.
they just new to event planning? Have they been in the industry for a while and they're just,
Right.
trying something new in event planning and are otherwise a trustworthy human? Or did they just
Mhm.
jump into this industry and see a money grab and decide that they were going to try to, do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So look at those
Same
things.
for book box services.
Yes.
So when those first became really popular, so many little ones popped up,
Hmm.
and like they were gone as quickly as they got started because the organizers were just cash grabbers.
Right. So,
Period.
and let's talk about book boxes for a little bit. Like what is and
Yeah.
what isn't scammy in a book box, right?
Mm.
So obviously, if you subscribe to a book box and you never receive the box, that's a scam.
Yeah,
That's a money
absolutely.
cash grab.
Call your credit card
Yeah,
company.
as a consumer.
Yeah.
Authors, I've seen a whole bunch of talk on TikTok about like how, well, if they should be paying you for the books or paying royalties. Listen, there's different business models here. And
Yes.
that does
Yes.
having a business model that does not require payment for the books, where the author is just sending the books to the book box, does not mean it's a scam. That is just a
No. No.
different
As a matter of
business
fact,
model.
if someone I will not name who runs a huge well-known book box calls me and says, "I want this client that you work with paperbacks for my," we're going to give her as many as we can come up with.
Yeah.
Period. Because of the visibility and the reach of that. The exposure alone is worth the giving or gifting
Yeah.
of the
There
print copies for
and
the book
there
box.
are absolutely time where exposure doesn't pay the bills, and then there are
Sure.
times when exposure
You
does.
you make a calculated decision to
Yes.
go ahead and invest in something because there will be a return for it.
And you need to be able to tell the difference. And so not all book boxes that have that type of business model are
No,
scams.
that's an exception rather than the rule, I
Yeah,
think, with book boxes. But there are a couple of those that exist.
for sure. For sure. And there are some where, they promise one thing and then don't deliver on it time and time and time and time and time again.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a scam. It's more of a bad business practice.
Right.
So, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but you should be
Probably
getting
a waste of
a
your time
waste
and
of your time
money.
and money. That's what we'll call it. So I wouldn't necessarily, a scam to me is when you're not getting anything for,
Right.
what,
When someone's using you for their own gain and you get absolutely nothing in return for it.
correct. That to me is a complete scam.
Hmm.
And there's certainly bad actors, though, bad business
Yeah.
models, bad practices for sure that I've seen. So, read the reviews. This is what reviews are for: consumers. Reviews are
Yeah.
for readers.
Go look at previous boxes and see which authors were included and reach out to those authors and ask them about their experience with this particular book box.
Yeah.
Would they do it again? Are they planning to do it again?
Was it a positive
Were there any
experience?
things
Yeah.
were there any things they wish had been done differently?
Mm-hmm. And because there's so many variations of book boxes now too, of like what, as an author, are you just
Yep.
sending books that you have on your shelf that you have in your own
Mhm.
inventory? Or are they creating a brand new cover? Is that, what's
Right.
involved here? What are you providing them the license to use your material for XYZ? How long do they get the
Right.
rights to it? Things like that. So you got to really look at these terms and conditions and decide if it's going to benefit you.
Mhm.
Even if there's, no money up front to you, is it going to benefit you
Right.
in the long run? We were just talking with our 17-year-old son this morning about ROI and about different investments and short-term
Yeah.
investments and long-term investments. And I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm talking about in business, in life, because you can apply these things to all different things in life.
Sure.
Is, doing X going to give you a return? What are you expecting? What is the return that you want?
There's so many things in life that are that way.
Right.
Partnerships, friendships,
Friendships,
romantic
everything.
relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what type of return are you expecting?
Right.
And then is it going to give you that? Is it going to be a long term or a short term return?
Do you want to invest in that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Is that even
maybe
something you want to
maybe
do?
maybe the return is guaranteed, but what you have to do to get it isn't necessarily something that you're comfortable with or that's feasible for you.
Right. So, these are all things that you need to look at when you are
Yep.
evaluating whether this is an opportunity that you want to come across. in addition to first vetting them and finding out, is this even a legitimate company? Is
Right.
this even a real thing? Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, how many times I get emails from clients. Is what is this company? Is this real?
Yeah.
Because they've gotten whatever email in their inbox.
Right.
And then I go and look them up and, oh, yeah, this is real. Okay, cool. Haven't heard of them. They're new. That's great.
Yeah. Or, oh, no,
Yeah.
definitely not real, because, so many things that can come up to flag
Oh,
that.
yeah.
My favorite is when it's very obvious that they are international and simply setting things up to like collect your financial information somehow
Yeah.
and rob you blind.
Yeah.
The poor syntax or word choice that doesn't match, you can
You
tell
can pretty much
the
tell
author is not a
immediately.
native English speaker or something. Yeah.
Which doesn't immediately discount it, but can be
No,
like if
no, of
there's
course not.
an email that is just really poorly written and looks like it was
Hmm.
run through Google Translate, is I think pretty much is
Yeah.
what you're referring to. That
Yes,
is
absolutely.
that is definitely a red flag. And you can
Right.
tell when you read
Yeah.
those. So yeah, you gotta make sure. Gotta do a little vetting here.
Hmm.
But
Totally.
all right. Well, what is our evergreen marketing tip of the week?
Ooh, we're going to talk. Okay. So this week, I would like to encourage everyone to leverage all of their options for paid placements on social media.
Okay.
So we've talked about pay-per-click ads, but if you didn't know, and I know some people don't know, you do have the opportunity to sponsor your regular content and boost how far it's seen on certain social media platforms, the metaverse in particular.
Yes.
That's available to you. So when you have a really, really well performing piece of content, even if it's not necessarily promotional in nature, you can spend a few bucks to boost it and send it out there so more people see it. And you should absolutely take advantage of that
Yeah.
during pre-order
Mm-hmm.
periods, during a sale, whatever the case may be. Even if it's just like a spicy excerpt with a really sexy graphic because you write romance, send it out there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because
Take advantage of those.
the more that you're seen, the
Yes,
more likely it is somebody's going to come and check you out.
absolutely.
So,
Or click a link that maybe is included in your post
yep. Yep.
to the retailer or retailers where your book is available for sale, or to your own store.
Yes, your own store. That is the
I
key.
love the your own
I love
store.
your own
Emphasis on the
store.
your own store.
Can we say that enough?
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that was for book's sake this week. Until next time, if I could hit the button. It's a stupid button, man.